to this week's Cruise Chat. I'm Kathleen Penner, owner of Plenty of Sunshine Travel, and today I'm joined by Ernie, and Ernie is from GAdventures, and this is my first time meeting with him, and I'm super excited to learn more about the GAdventures brand. And as you guys know that you're subscribed to our channel, for each and every cruise line that I meet with, we have a playlist. So make sure that you hit that playlist, and then eventually you'll see more videos from GAdventure as well. So I'm just going to turn it over to Ernie, and I'm looking forward to learning more about it.
Kathleen, thank you so much for having myself and GAdventures on your show today. I'm really excited to talk about GAdventures, who we are, what we do, and highlight some unique itinerary that we offer as well, among many. But before I start off talking about GAdventures, the first thing that I always do on every single presentation when we're talking about travel and GAdventures is to kind of debunk the word adventure. Because what I find a lot of the times when people see our name or hear the word adventure, right away it goes to like the hardcore hiking, trekking, and that is an adventure to some, but to others, an adventure is so open to interpretation. And even myself, before working for G, which I've been working for the past 5 years, that's right away what I thought of was the hardcore hiking and trekking. But an adventure to me is wine tasting, cooking classes, exploring the city, going a little bit off the beaten track. That can also be an adventure. So as we're talking about GAdventures and as you're planning your future travel as well, that is the one thing that I always recommend is just people go into it with an open mind, because to go on an adventure is something so different and so unique, and there's a multitude of ways that you can experience an adventure as well too. So that's kind of just my kind of like preempted foray before we get into G.
Yeah. No, I love that too, because adventure is different to every person, right? So that's a good way to describe it. It's just, an adventure of your taste buds or an adventure of what you're seeing or experiencing.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about GAdventures. So if you have never heard of GAdventures, GAdventures was founded in 1990 by this gentleman pictured here, Mr. Bruce Puntip. And he actually started the company with his 2 personal credit cards. Back in 1990, there really was no travel company like GAdventures that was all about small group, all about community tourism. So everyone basically kind of laughed in his face, thought that he was out of his mind because everyone had always thought of travel as either the all-inclusive or the cruising or even large group touring. So he was kind of like the leader in that segment of the small group community sustainable travel. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as well as we get into it. Today, GAdventures is the #1 adventure travel company in the entire world as well. And for us, our big focus, like I had mentioned, is we are a social enterprise and we are all about building a world of good. Not only that, GAdventures is Canadian owned and operated as well. And we have a multitude of travel styles as well, 10 to be specific. So there really is an adventure and an experience for all activity levels. So that's definitely something very, very important to keep in mind as well. So why travel with GAdventures? Well, talking a little bit about small group touring, our land tours are a max of 16 total. So when you're traveling in a group, you get to know the people you're traveling with. It's all very like-minded travelers as well. So the people that are going to the destinations that we go to are going for very similar reasons as a lot of our travelers. So it's a lot easier for people to get to know each other by name and really create that close friendship bond. I myself have done a handful of GAdventures tours through the years. And I still keep in touch with a lot of the people that I travel with as well. So that's a huge kind of motivator for me when I'm thinking about traveling, is having that opportunity to be able to connect with people that I'm traveling with. And especially for me, I'm horrible with names. So remembering 16 names is a lot easier than remembering 30 plus. So that's
Mhm.
another big thing. We have our book and travel with confidence policies put in place so that we have our safety and the safety of our travelers in mind. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well. We have our locally based guides as well. So we don't have people traveling with us from North America that are leading our tours. They're all local to destination. So I'll talk a little bit more about our tour guides as well
Great.
and what we call them. We're built to support local communities. We have tons of freedom and flexibility. Yes, it is group travel, but within our itineraries, there's a lot of freedom and flexibility. There's mornings off, afternoons off, even days off, depending on the itinerary. So there's definitely that freedom and independent aspect of group travel with GAdventures in mind as well. And then our G for good experiences. So when you're traveling with us, we're also firsthand going to be experiencing and understanding the commitment that we've put in place to help support local communities and the destinations that we travel to. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into it as well. So what kind of sets GAdventures apart in terms of our unique selling features as well? So we have what's called a lifetime deposit,
Mhm.
especially in this day and age. It's super important to know that if you are putting down a $350 deposit on your tour, that if something should change with your travel arrangements, you just don't feel comfortable traveling right now, that deposit is going to stay with you for life. So if you do decide to cancel, you can actually use that deposit for a future trip, whether it be 3 months down the road or even 5 years later. So that's another key thing to keep in mind. If you decide not to travel with us, then you can actually transfer that deposit, or you can also donate it to Planetaria, which is our not-for-profit organization as well. We also have no single supplements as well. So
Mhm.
what that actually means is that we're essentially matching our travelers up with the same sex in the group.
Mhm.
Now, if someone decides that they don't want to share with another traveler, they can actually pay the my own room. But again, it's not going to cost them an arm and a leg. We want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to be able to travel and experience a GAdventure tour as well. So there's tons of choice in our tours. Like I mentioned, we have over 10 different travel styles, and we offer over 600 different itineraries that go to all continents as well. So definitely, those are just some key things to keep in mind when you're thinking about GAdventures and traveling in the future as well.
Mhm.
So for us, responsible travel is everything. We love our planet, but we all can admit firsthand that it's far from perfect.
Mhm.
That's why for us, from the very beginning, our priority has always been to ensure that we're creating a positive impact on every community that we go and visit. And I just wanted to kind of cover off on what some of these G for good positive impacts that we do around the world as well. So I'll talk a little bit about our community tourism travel mindset, our Ripple score, our Planetaria project, projects around the world, as well as a not-for-profit projects,
Mhm.
our plastic partnerships, and our policies in terms of child, animal, and indigenous welfare policies.
Great.
So community tourism, It's so open to interpretation, but again, it's in the essence of everything that we do and everything that we stand for. Every decision that goes into a new tour, a new destination, always revolves around what good can we do for the local community. So every supplier, in terms of accommodations, the restaurants that we go to, everything in between, we always assess to make sure that as much money is staying in the local community and the well-being of everyone that's involved in our tours are basically upheld as well. So obviously there's a lot of pride that we take into building our own community as well, from our employees to our agent partners such as yourself, Kathleen. We have a passion to make sure that we're improving the world, one tour and one traveler at a time as well. So I talked a little bit about our tour guides, and that's essentially what a lot of people refer to our guides essentially for groups. But for us, we don't call our guides tour guides. We actually call them CEOs, so Chief Experience Officers.
I love
They are.
that. That's great.
Yeah, honestly, it's just something so different because even before I joined G, tour guides have always been the most important part of any tour of any company. They are essentially going to be the face of the company of GAdventures, and they're going to be the first point of contact, more than likely, for our travelers. So to name them the CEO, it's huge. And the great thing with our CEOs is that we have them all local to destination. And the beauty with that is that they speak the language, they know the history, they know the culture, they know the ins and outs of the destination. So it's not like we're sending people from North America, like I had mentioned before. These people live and breathe, like the way that they talk about the culture, the way that they talk about their history is very, very different. And you can honestly see the passion when they're talking about the country, their culture, the different foods, what their favorite foods are. They honestly go above and beyond. And without our CEOs, we wouldn't be the GAdventures that we are today. So they are honestly, like, hands down, some of the most amazing people that work for our company. Then we have our G for good. So these are essentially some of our key points when we're looking at how we're creating a sustainable tourism experience for our travelers as well. So it's basically broken up into 3 segments: our Ripple score, our responsible travel policies, and our Planetaria Foundation, which is our not-for-profit arm as well. So I'll talk a little bit about our Ripple score first. So with the Ripple score, this is essentially something that we've been working very, very hard over the past 30 years, essentially, really figuring out how much money is actually staying in the local communities. And back in 2016, this is where we came out with the Ripple score. And it's essentially creating and holding us responsible, but then also having that transparency with our travelers as well, so that they actually know that when they're traveling with GAdventures, that they're also going to be supporting local businesses as they travel with us as well. So that's a huge aspect as well. So as we're kind of like assessing our tours with what we call a Ripple score, a tour evaluation that lets you see how much money is actually staying in the local community through our the accommodations that we use, the restaurants that we use, as well as the transportation. It really gives our travelers a real in-depth understanding of what is going to be staying locally. So our average ripple score is 93 out of 100. So for every 93, or for every dollar spent in the destination, 93 cents actually stays locally. So it's huge, especially now, right now. A lot of travelers, a lot of people want to make sure that they're supporting local businesses, local people essentially. And this is one of the greatest ways that you can do that as well. Then we have our three main policies. So we have our animal welfare policy, and this is essentially our vision to ensure that all animals that are encountered on our tours are treated humanely. So, for example, many years ago, we used to go to the animal orphanage in Chiang Mai, in Thailand, but we actually don't go there anymore because as we've done our research, the animals, for example, there aren't kept to the degree that they should be in terms of feeding, all of that kind of stuff as well. So we've put in place our animal welfare policy to make sure that we're not exploiting animals, that we're actually just viewing them, not going into their habitats and taking over. So that's been a huge kind of part to refining our tour experience and giving the best possible experience to our travelers as well. Then we have our animal welfare, or our child welfare policy as well. And what our child welfare policy is to ensure that we're protecting children from harm of the result of tourism, essentially. So for example, the best example that I use is, and I used to be guilty of this as well, when you go to destination and you see kids running around or playing and they're wearing their cute outfits, their customary outfits and whatnot, you normally would take a picture and whatnot. But when you're at home, if you were to take a picture of children, everyone would be like, why are you taking pictures of kids? Like, you wouldn't go into a school and take pictures of children here in Canada. So why would you do that when you go to Africa or to Asia or wherever it may be? It just doesn't seem proper, and we just don't want that type of tourism experience. We don't want children to feel like tourism is the way that they're going to be able to make money by begging and whatnot as well. So that's another huge part of it. And then the responsibility towards Indigenous people as well, and our commitment to respecting their rights, history, and cultures. And we want to make sure that they are actually benefiting from tourism. So we want to make sure that, for example, when we're doing like our Planetaria projects, we're working with these local communities to ensure that that what they are providing is going to benefit them in the long run as well. And then talking about Planetaria as well, which is our not-for-profit arm, and it's one of the foundations that we've kind of set into a lot of itineraries as well. And these are going to be experiences all over the world. We have over 100 Planetaria projects around the world that we've incorporated into our itineraries. And it's essentially incorporating the community tourism experience and ensuring that it's better helping the local community that we travel to as well. So I have a quick little video just talking about one of our Planetaria projects in Nepal that I'm going to share, and it's the Sasani project. And what the Sasani project is, just to briefly talk about it, because the video will talk about it as well. Is we've worked with a local community association that helps remove women from the sex slave industry within Nepal, and actually retrains them to become certified paralegals. So we actually go to the Sasani project in Nepal, and they talk about the background, how they got to Sasani, their personal stories, and then there's a unique experience that the video will cover off on as well. So let's get into the video. I'll let you cue that up, Kathleen.
Okay.
In 2013, GAdventures and the Planetaria Foundation launched the G Project, an open call for great ideas to make our world a better place. From hundreds of submissions, one was chosen and received a $25,000 development grant. Submitted by G Project participant Leanne Gibbs, this is the Sisterhood of Survivors.
I always wanted to stand for myself. I wanted to be independent, but alone it was hard and impossible.
When I was in trouble, I didn't have any idea of what to do or where I should go.
The position of Nepalese women is very bad and sad. Society don't accept women's rights.
Every year, as many as 7,000 women and girls are trafficked into Nepal's sex industry. Sasani is a non-profit organization committed to helping survivors of sex trafficking. It trains survivors to become certified paralegals, empowering them to find justice for themselves and for others. The women become leaders in their communities, ones with job skills and the will to make a very real difference. GAdventures travelers in the region visit Sasani to meet the women and learn from them how to prepare traditional Nepali dishes. Funds from these visits are reinvested into Sasani's education programs to help continue empowering survivors to make a difference in their own lives, in the lives of others, and in turn, ours.
Sasane is my base and my future. My involvement with Sasane helped me to fight against my trouble. It also helps me to get justice and empowers me to stand up for myself. Now I can protect myself and I can help others to protect themselves.
Our long-term aspiration is to end human trafficking and sexual violence from Nepal. We believe that survivors ourselves have immense potential to combat the exploitation of Nepalese women and girls and to create social change. Our idea can protect, help them to fight for justice, reintegrate in society, and help them to survive. They can use our idea and it will end human trafficking. Not now, but in future for sure.
One idea can change the world.
I have to thank GAdventures and Planetaria and the G Project for giving these women the opportunity to gain back their respect and their dignity and the freedom that they deserve. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, so I really hope that you all enjoyed the video. It definitely is just one of the many experiences that we have where you can actually experience and understand the destination and the background story of the projects as well.
Mm-hmm. Almost brings a tear to your eye. Goodness, that's amazing. Yeah.
It does, yeah, for sure. So now getting into our travel styles as well. So as I had mentioned, we have well over 10 different travel styles, but the one that I wanted to highlight quickly today is actually our marine travel style. So I know that cruising is very dear to your heart, Kathleen.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to make sure that I have the opportunity to be able to capture what our marine product is. And for us, it's some of the world's most amazing places that we go to, and they're only able to be explored by boat, obviously. So our fleets are very small ships.
Mhm.
So it could be anything from yacht sailing, sailing the Mediterranean on a yacht of 8 travelers, going to Croatia, going to Greece, going to Montenegro. We also do catamaran and yacht sailing in the Caribbean, like BVI, Cuba, St. Lucia, and the Grenadines as well. So there are some really unique small ship yacht experiences that we offer. We also offer the Galapagos cruising, which I'll talk briefly about. And then we also offer river cruising as well, which we can talk about in future.
Boy, and you get really personalized service on such a small yacht too. That would be fabulous.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's not just about the service,
Mhm.
but because the yachts are so small. So for example, like when we're talking about the Renee Sylvia
Mhm.
Voyager, which is our newest catamaran in the Galapagos, set to launch next spring, so 2022 spring.
Yeah.
Um, because it's such a small yacht, we're actually able to go more off the beaten track, go into more of the secluded parts of the islands within the
Mhm.
Galapagos. Whereas if you're doing a large ship, for example, you just won't be able to do that as well.
Mhm.
Um, and the beauty of it is that for those that love to cruise, they're on the water, but you're gonna also be spending a lot more time on land because of our group size. So there isn't going to be a need to worry about tendering. Everyone's going to be able to go on the island as a whole group together. They're going to have the opportunity to be able to explore, to hike. If they just wanted to relax on the white sand beaches in the Galapagos, they can do that as well. And because the yacht is so small, snorkeling is a lot easier.
Mhm.
So anytime that we're anchored is a beautiful opportunity to be able to snorkel. So all the snorkeling gear and the wetsuits will be included as well and will be available on board. So just talking a little bit about the Renee Sylvia. So it's a max of 16 total guests. It's going to be our luxury catamaran, and it's actually being custom built right now. It was already supposed to be out on the water, but because of COVID, it's been delayed.
Everything
So,
is delayed. Yeah.
yes, it's unfortunate. There's private balconies as well. There's going to be expert CEO, naturalist guide as well on with the group. All meals on board are going to be included as well.
Mhm.
Kayaking will also be available. And not to mention, after those long days of snorkeling, hiking, or even just relaxing, you can further relax in the jacuzzi on the top deck as well. So there's definitely some really great opportunities to be able to experience the Renee Silva.
Mhm.
So this just kind of gives you a quick little breakdown. So it's going to be 4 main deck twin cabins
Mhm.
with balconies. There's going to be 1 double cabin with no balcony.
Mhm.
And then there's going to be 2 upper deck twin cabins with balconies. And the beauty with this catamaran is that if there are any solo travelers, we actually have 2 dedicated solo cabins with balconies also on this as well. So if any solo travelers want their own cabin, they can get their own cabin, and it has a balcony. So that's always a beauty there as well.
Mhm.
So this just kind of gives you an idea of what the decks will look like. So obviously the main deck has the lounge, saloon, bar, and the dining area with the cabins there. And then the upper deck has an additional lounge as well with a bar.
Mhm.
And then the bridge is there, and then the beautiful sun deck with the jacuzzi and outdoor lounge. So it's honestly, it's going to be such an amazing experience to be able to go through the Galapagos, cruise through the Galapagos and experience. And this is just kind of what the cabins are going to look like there as well.
Oh, they're stunning. Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very modern, minimalistic, just
Mhm.
light, bright, just to make sure that we're not taking away from the natural surrounding. We want to make sure that that's what we're featuring when we're cruising through the Galapagos as well.
The windows are so large. That's beautiful.
Yeah, they're honestly like, this is one of the yachts that I want to get on as soon as I can.
Mhm. I can't wait
Yeah.
to hear all about it when you go then. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, but we'll have to see when that is. Yeah, I mean that's kind of all I have
Mhm.
to talk about today.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No, not really. I think you laid everything out. I really love how GAdventures just commits to the community. And I think that's something that is just, really needed in this industry. And I think
Yeah.
it's wonderful that you guys do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the big draws that brought me to G as well, working in the industry for quite a while, is that community tourism being as sustainable as possible and still not moving away from the experience, but in a different way, where you're going more off the beaten track. You're going into the smaller towns, the smaller villages. You actually get to interact with the locals in these communities. You really understand what they go through and what life is like in the destination. And whenever I go, I always feel like I am a local from the country. I feel like I've really lived the local life whenever I
Mhm.
travel with GAdventures.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. Yeah. And I think of myself when I travel, because I love small ship cruising personally, as more of a traveler and not a tourist. So I love
Yes.
getting into the areas that aren't as North Americanized, and it's
Yep.
just the actual culture that you're experiencing. And I think GAdventures really hits it on that.
Absolutely.
Yes. So thank you so much for putting all that together. I know how much work it was, and I greatly appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a great week. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this week's Cruise Chat with Ernie from GAdventures. It was really nice to see a company that is so socially responsible that their main concern are the people they're impacting on where you visit. It was really, really nice to see that. That's something that we don't see very frequently with tour companies. They're more concentrating on their guests and creating those experiences that occasionally it could be forgotten that they're not impacting the area that they're visiting. And I loved their charitable foundation. That Planetaria, I believe it was called, just phenomenal how they rescued these women from the sex trade industry and from being involved in that, and to give them a second chance and a second career. And I think that just touched my heart. That was just phenomenal that they did that. Next week, I'm going to be meeting with a brand new cruise line again. And I think it's great that I'm meeting with new cruise lines and introducing you guys to new things all the time. And I'm going to be meeting, I believe it's pronounced Hurtigruten, and I'm probably saying that wrong. I apologize if I am. And they are an expedition cruise ship, and they are really, really amazing in what they do. Fully immersive experiences as well. So tune in next week. And if you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please make sure that you liked and subscribed and to hit that bell. That way you'll see when all of our new videos come out. They typically come out every Thursday around 11 o'clock. Sometimes there's some kind of technical difficulties or I'm still typing because I like to do a good in-depth description. But they do come out around 11 o'clock, always on Thursday, pardon me. So make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you see it. You don't need to wait for me to go to our Facebook group to announce it. I do have two Facebook pages. One is a page, and that is Plenty of Sunshine Travel on Facebook. The other one is our brand new Facebook group, and that is called Travelers Not Tourists Cruise Community. So come on over and join that and join in on the conversation and just meet like-minded people who want to travel just the same that you do. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week. Goodbye, everybody.